Hey guys, welcome back. So today I have another story time, work time video for you. If you guys have seen my video about how I got fired from Abercrombie, this happened immediately after that. So today I'm going to talk about when I worked at American Eagle. So, I've had a lot of people ask me what happened in that gap between me working at Hollister and me getting into real estate. And I wanted to kind of talk about that today. I only worked at American Eagle for really about a Christmas season, and then I kind of worked floor sets for the next 7 months after that. But sometimes I'd work 4 or 5 nights a week for 4 or 5 hours at a time. Other times I'd work like I didn't even think I worked there anymore, and they'd call me after 2 or 3 months and ask me to come in. So this is the story about how this happened. So we got to go back in time, back to October of 2012. I had just graduated college at the end of August, and basically the deal was I was getting laid off from the job that I'd worked all throughout college. And they kind of held off on doing that until I graduated, but then after I graduated I was pretty much SOL, and I had to find something. Even if that meant that it was no longer a full-time job and I was going to be part-time, I had to find something. So what I ended up doing was I had a bunch of interviews, and then my absolute last resort was to go to the mall. To be honest with you guys, like, I used to think that the people that worked at American Eagle and worked at Hollister in the mall were the coolest kids ever. I mean, when I was a little kid, like, seriously, I idolized those people. And I don't know, like, I still wear some stuff from American Eagle, even though I'm like an Abercrombie guy, but I had applied, somehow I had set up like 3 interviews in one day, and I think my actual interview for Hollister, where I became a manager in training, was that day. And then I also had an interview at Old Navy, and then one at American Eagle. They were all for the Christmas season, and I actually got hired all 3 places, believe it or not. So I was like, oh crap, what do I do now? Well, I just kind of didn't show up to Old Navy, and then I actually knew the hiring manager at American Eagle, so I at least gave her a call back, and I said, hey, just to let you know, I just got hired as an assistant manager at Hollister, so obviously I'm not taking a part-time position with you. So fast forward a little more than a year, and whatever happened at Hollister. Well, the whole time that I was at Hollister, this assistant manager who had hired me in the first place at American Eagle kept up with me. Even when I transferred to a location on the other side of the state, she added me on Facebook, kept in contact with me. I think she kind of had a crush on me, but it was not going to happen. But anyway, so basically what happened is, like, the day after I got fired from Hollister, I knew I had to find something immediately. Probably could have got unemployment, but I never thought about that. And the next thing that happened was I saw her post on Facebook saying, hey, we're hiring, we need 20 people for the Christmas season. I was like, hey, I'm going to be in tomorrow to put in an application. She's like, well, hold up. What? And I told her what happened and everything. Well, basically, you'll find out in this video, I did not have a good time working in American Eagle. But you wouldn't have been able to tell that from the very beginning, because from the very beginning it seemed like I was like the golden child at American Eagle. Like, they loved me, and they were so open and welcoming, and they rolled out the red carpet for me to come in. And they'd been trying to recruit me this whole time that I worked at Hollister, so I was only unemployed for like 3 days, and I was working at American Eagle. So basically what went down is, after I said that stuff to her on Facebook, she went and she talked to her boss. Her boss said, yeah, absolutely, bring him in. So she texted me and was like, hey, I don't know what to tell you about what position we're going to give you, because, like, we'd like to have you as a merchandiser, but she's like, which is kind of a low-level manager but not really a manager. She said, we'd like to have you in that position, but we just hired this dude Izzy like last week. This is his first day. So we're going to create an auxiliary merchandiser position called a merchandising assistant or merchandiser assistant. She's like, if you come in today, I can hire you in at $9.45 an hour, which for where that was and the time period, that was reasonable for that job. That was pretty high pay. Now, it wasn't anywhere what I made as a manager, but that was more than I was expecting because minimum wage was $7.25. So I took it. And at the time, like literally 2 weeks before that, my car had blown up. It was a nightmare. I had to get my Social Security card, which meant that I had to take the freaking city bus to the other side of the city, get in my storage unit, get my card, and then I had to go down to, well, and then finally, she's like, hey, I'm running out of time. Like, I got to leave for the day for my shift. She literally drove to the other side of the city, picked me up, and took me in to finish my paperwork at the store. So, like, they were bending over backwards to get me into this position. And, I mean, I absolutely appreciate all of that. Not only that, but all of the managers knew my situation. There were, like, several managers there. They all knew my situation, and they all made sure that I had everything that I needed in order to get started. And I mean, they were driving me home at night. Like, they always had me on closing shifts. They would literally drive me home at night. And the one night I was talking to my my store manager, and we were talking about management and everything, and she's like, well, yeah, I want you to be a manager here. She's like, well, what we're doing is, since it's the very start of the Christmas season, we don't have time right now to train you to be a manager. So what we're going to have you do is we're going to train you on everything in the store, and we're going to have you on register most of the time. We're just going to have you run register through the Christmas season, and then when it slows down, we'll put you through our manager and training program. And she said, well, it's not as official as the one that Hollister does, but that's what we're going to do, and you'll have an assistant manager position. So I was really excited for that. Now, I will say I didn't quite mesh into the company culture as much as American Eagle as I did Hollister, and there were some things coming from Hollister were really hard to adapt to. Like their dress code, literally the philosophy behind it is live your life, and you're allowed to wear anything. Doesn't have to be American Eagle. There are very few restrictions, and I was so baffled because at Hollister it was like literally they would send you pictures and even the barcode of the exact items that you had to wear. And so it was really difficult for me. I always thought I was dressing incorrectly. So all of that sounds great, right? Now, why was it that I didn't like it there? Well, it started about a week in, because the same manager who hired me, her name's Anna, she wanted me to recruit a couple other people from Hollister. And she's like, they can still work there if they want, you know, just have them have two jobs during the holidays. And I was like, okay, cool. So one of my best friends was one of my employees there, and she was a damn good worker, and I wanted her there. Her name's Morgan. And Morgan came over and started working with me. And then there was this girl named Lexi, and Lexi was a good worker too. Although they kind of were mad at me about Lexi, and I never really understood why. Because she was like super busy, she was involved in everything, also worked at Hollister. Plus, it was the middle of basketball season. She was a senior in high school. She was the middle of basketball season, and she was a basketball cheerleader, so she had that going on too. And that Anna girl ended up like kind of getting mad at me and kind of getting snobby with me, because she's like, well, why would you even have me hire her, because she doesn't have any time to work. I'm like, I don't know what her schedule is. You hired her, shouldn't you look into that? I just recruited people for you. But anyway, so obviously things with me and Anna are sort of starting to go downhill. She's made it clear she's no longer interested in me as like a love interest, which I was kind of relieved about, honestly. And then I don't know really what happened, but there were like 10 managers in the store. There was like store manager, like 4 or 5 assistant managers, and then there were all these people who would work there for 10 or 20 years. Like literally, how do you afford to work 10 hours a week for minimum wage for 20 years? Like, what? But that's the way that this store operated, and these people were all some sort of managers. I don't know, key holders or something. And the lower level managers were all really snobby, unprofessional, and unfriendly. And I didn't have any real direct confrontations with any of them, but I think they kind of resented me, and some of them even told me, oh, well, you're Anna's friend, so the rules don't apply to you, and that kind of thing. And I'm like, really? I mean, that was never explained to me. And it's just weird stuff like that. I hated working there. Hated it. I was so miserable. I mean, I just didn't like the company culture. I didn't like some of the things that they had us do, like forcing credit cards. I got yelled at one time because out of the entire time I was on the line, I missed one person's email address, and I got screamed at by a manager. But they couldn't get rid of me either because I was so good at folding. Because we had standard at Hollister, and some days they literally would be like, hey, our jean wall is a mess. You want to come in for 2 hours and refold every jean in the store? And I would do it because I needed the money. But I would literally just come in there and like completely redo the jean wall. Well, anyway, what ended up happening was we got down to, it was like the 22nd or 23rd of December, right? And here I am thinking that after Christmas, and probably after the Christmas return rush, I'm going to be starting to be trained as a manager. I'm not sure how I feel about it because I don't really like the place, but I need the money, desperately need the money. So on about the 22nd or 23rd of December, they put out the schedule for next week. They hold a meeting. They say, oh, all the temporary people are being laid off. Well, I was under the understanding that I was not a temporary person, but yet I didn't get any hours. And that was my only source of income. I was really not okay with that. There was never any explanation given, ever. And see, I had been trained as a jean expert, as a stylist, as cashier. I had done all those things, thinking that they were going to train me to be a manager. And then suddenly, that just didn't happen. But like I said, I wasn't happy there anyway, so I didn't really put up a fight. In fact, I never really asked anybody about it. I was like, alright, fuck you too. So I did go a few months. It took me like 3 months after that to find a real job. But that was 2013. Well, 2013, and then spring of 2014, from like January to July of 2014, they would call me in randomly. And they almost I was doing it just to spite them for a while there, is I would literally come in the store every week and ask for my schedule. They'd give me the schedule and it'd have 0 hours on it. 0 call-ins. And it was like that week after week after week. And it wasn't until like March, when I started this other job, that suddenly, here I have call-ins. And I'm like, I can't do these. I have a job. It's an hour and a half away. And then scheduling became an issue, and then they made that a big deal. And finally, they called me in one last time in July to do a floor set, and I did it. I regretted doing it. They treated us like garbage when we were working. And then once that was done, I actually went up to the manager that hired me, and I started talking to her about something, and she's like, oh yeah, well, hey, we're doing a floor set next week. You want to? I'm like, no. I was like, actually, I need to tell you that I'm quitting. And she was like, shocked. And she's like, well, okay, well, can you recruit some more people for us? Because, like, we're just having such a hard time. I'm like, no, you're on your own. And just walked out. So, yeah, my experience at American Eagle was not terrible, but if you ask me, out of all the bad jobs I've had, it probably was the worst because of the way that we were treated and the fact that I was absolutely miserable the entire time I was there. Which you'd think going from Hollister to American Eagle, it'd be like the same thing. Could not have been farther apart. It honestly was one of the worst experiences I've ever had. In the way that you were treated by the management, the way the scheduling was done, the way just really everything about it was done. And I am so glad that I got out of there. I'm so glad that I quit when I did and refused to be put on floor sets, which I was never supposed to be doing in the first place. I was never officially an OMA. They just put me in that. I mean, they did give me a 20-cent raise, but still, cut my hours. That doesn't help. So guys, that's my experience at American Eagle. Not great. Probably would not suggest anybody working there. Or at least not that store. Maybe it's different other places. But I've heard there's a ton of drama, a ton of drama. And even from the managers that I had at the time, all of them have quit and have started trying to tell me about the drama. And I'm like, I don't care. I don't care. And I don't know, guys. What are your experiences? Like, have you worked at a shitty retail store? Have you worked at American Eagle? What were your experiences like? What happened at your store? Did you feel like you were kind of excluded or shunned, didn't really fit in? Because that's how I felt. You know, let me know in the comments below. If I know you guys like this type of video. I'm running out of jobs that I've had to summarize, though. But if you'd like to see more of this kind of content, give me a thumbs up. Also, if you haven't subscribed yet, click the red subscribe button. And also, if you want all the notifications from me, click the bell below this video, because that way you'll get everything and not just the highlights from my channel. I really do appreciate it, guys. Hopefully down the road I'll have some more story time, job time videos to tell you. In the meantime, subscribe for more content. I'll have a couple more videos up this week. And thanks for taking the time to watch.